Imagine that I have a 6x6 chocolate bar. In this game, we will take turns taking bites of this chocolate bar from the top right corner. Specifically, the active player will choose any square of chocolate that they want to, and remove all squares higher and to the right of that chocolate piece. For example, a legal first move to this game would be to select these 6 pieces here and eat them. It's as if you're taking a bite from the top right corner, hitting that furthest down piece, and eating everything else that was before it. A legal next move to this game would be to remove those 3 pieces. The player after that could follow by grabbing those 5. But what a player couldn't do, for example, is remove that 1, because there is a piece directly above it that would have to be consumed along with it. The other type of illegal move is to take pieces from separate areas of the chocolate bar, like this. The crux of the game is that the bottom left piece in purple is poison. We will take turns eating pieces of the chocolate bar. You'll take some, I'll take some, you'll take some, I'll take some, and so forth, until one of us has consumed the poison. That person loses the game, and the other person wins the game. Thus, your goal is to whittle down the chocolate bar in a particular way, so that when the purple piece is the only piece remaining, it is your opponent's turn. And because you are forced to eat some amount of chocolate bar in each turn, your opponent can't simply pass. They will be forced to eat it, they will lose, and you will win. Here's the puzzle. Imagine that you are going first. Find a strategy that guarantees you the win. And if you think that is too simple, then here's a more challenging question. Prove that player 1 always wins for any dimensions of chocolate bar. As long as that chocolate bar is a square or a rectangle, player 1 always wins. Can you prove that statement? While you think about that, check out some of these cool books that I've written. I also have a bundle of hints for you. Obviously, the solution strategy here is to work through backward induction, which is a topic within Chapter 2 of Game Theory 101, the complete textbook. More specific to this problem, the strategy that you as player 1 can adopt will work for any sized square, not just a 6x6. Could be a 3x3, a 10x10, it doesn't matter. That strategy will always work regardless of the size of the square. As for the more general rectangle case, there is no simple strategy that you can write down that will easily explain what you should do for any sized grid. Instead, the proof there is non-constructive, meaning that instead of writing down the strategy, you are going to just prove the fact that player 1 wins without explaining exactly how player 1 does that. Are you ready for the answer? The solution is simple for a square. On your first move, leave exactly 1 row and exactly 1 column untouched. From here, you can win no problem. Do you see why? Notice that there are 5 edible pieces in the column and 5 edible pieces in the row. Furthermore, recall that the game prohibits eating non-contiguous pieces. Thus, if I were to eat from the column, I cannot eat from the row, and vice versa, unless I also eat the poison. But of course, if I eat the poison, I lose, so I'm not going to do that. Because the row and the column live in their own separate worlds, and because they are identically sized, from here on in, you can strategy steal and guarantee the victory. For example, imagine that I remove the top 2 from the column in my next move. Well, there's an equivalent 2 pieces of chocolate in the row that you can remove as well. And now we're back down to the same symmetry as before. 3 pieces of chocolate in the column, 3 pieces of chocolate in the row. So if I were to then choose 1 piece of chocolate in the row, you could match that with 1 piece of chocolate in the column. And then if I have 2 pieces of chocolate, you can have 2 pieces of chocolate. And now it's my turn, and I'm stuck eating the poison. Congratulations, you win. And again, because there's symmetry after your first move, it doesn't matter what I do. I can't win from this position, and you have guaranteed yourself the victory. It also doesn't matter what size the square is. As long as you're down to a situation that looks symmetric like this, you've also guaranteed the win, which is why this same sort of strategy works regardless of the size of the square. What about the broader case, where you have a rectangle that is not a square? Here, that same strategy won't work. If you were to go all the way to the edge, leaving just a column and a row remaining, what is left is not symmetric. However, on my move, I could trim the row so that what remains is symmetric, and from there adopt strategy stealing and guarantee myself the victory. So you cannot begin the game with a rectangle like you would begin the game with a square and expect to win. Instead, I'm going to give you one more hint about the non-constructive proof for a rectangle. And that is thinking about just the top right corner, 1 piece, and no more as your first move. It may also help to know Zemelos Theorem. It says that for all sequential 2-player games, that is, 2 players that take turns, just like this one, with perfect information, meaning that everyone sees everyone else's previous moves, again the case here, and no possibility of draws, which is once more true for this game because someone eventually has to eat the poison. Exactly one of the following is true. 1, there is a first move that player 1 can make to guarantee the win. Or 2, after every first move, player 2 can guarantee the win. In other words, these sorts of games are deterministic when players play optimally. Either there is a sequence of moves that player 1 can implement that guarantees the win, and there is nothing that player 2 can do to stop it, or every single first move that player 1 has is a losing move, and following all of those losing moves, there is a sequence of strategies that player 2 can adopt that guarantee that player 2 wins the game, and from there is nothing that player 1 can do to stop it. Bringing these principles back to the game at hand, think again about this first move where you just remove the top right corner. One of 2 things is true about that first move. First is that it guarantees the win, that there's a sequence of moves afterward that player 1 can force that assures that he wins. And if that's the case, then our work here is done. We know that player 1 wins this game for any sized rectangle. The other possibility is that this is a losing strategy. In other words, there is a sequence of moves for player 2 now that guarantees that player 2 will win the game. But there's a major problem with that possibility. Think about the move that follows this, that player 2 will begin with as her sequence of strategies that guarantees her the win. Maybe it's something that looks like this. Problem is, though, it can't be this. Because if this was the beginning of a sequence of strategies that guarantees the win, player 1 could have just adopted that strategy from the beginning. And indeed, every strategy that follows player 1 taking just the top right corner is a strategy that player 1 could have chosen for himself. As a result, either player 1 can win the game by taking the top right corner at the beginning, or there is an alternative strategy that guarantees player 1 the victory instead. We can't necessarily write down what that strategy looks like, but we know that when the players play optimally, player 1 has to win this game. Did you figure out the square or the rectangle case? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.